there are 3 or 4 people who've had a major impact really directly on my career. My PhD advisor, Young Dan at Berkeley, Rafael Yusti at Columbia University, who sort of gave me my first job in science when I was a programmer, when broke, living in Brooklyn. My postdoc advisors, Mike Merznick, Christoph Schreiner, guys who worked on the cochlear implant, a device that lets deaf people hear again. So other scientists, but definitely people who have had an eye towards mentorship and trying to understand this kind of real apprenticeship, this working relationship between mentor and mentee, which I think is the fundamental aspect of scientific culture. You have to talk to other people about what you do, and you have to talk to them all the time about it. All sorts of people, the people on the plane next to you, your friends and your family, and come up with a language, figure out how to talk about what you do in a way that allows for some common understanding. Newt Gingrich gave a talk at the Society for Neuroscience meeting many years ago. I think a lot of us went just to see what the hell it was that Newt Gingrich was going to say to the Society for Neuroscience. And his message was very short and very clear. And that was that if you don't tell your congressman what it is you're working on, don't be surprised when Congress doesn't fund your research. And I think that's a general truism, not just in terms of interactions with overt political parties, but really just with the society that we're all part of. So I think there are actually a lot of myths. I don't know about myths in neuroscience per se, but at least myths in the popular culture about how it is brains work and who we are. I guess that in our research, we take kind of a philosophical position along the nature-nurture axis. So there's sort of this old idea, not just even in neuroscience, just kind of in natural history or philosophy, that who are we and why do we behave the way we behave? Is it because we're born a certain way and we have genes that have made us into who we are, or are we the product of our experiences and sort of the vagaries of life, and that leads us to all become the individual snowflakes we seem to be? Well, our group, we work on plasticity, and so our interest is really in figuring out just how plastic the brain can be, just how much our experiences can modify us. And regardless as to where we began in the genetic landscape, if we have genes for this or that mental disorder or personality trait, just how much, with practice, with training, with motivation and some effort, can we change that and really be not who we are, but who we want to be. And so I guess one of the myths that our work is hoping to dispel, if you will, is that even though the brain may be much more plastic early in life, when, say, we're learning languages and learning how to first understand, move about in the world, the brain really maintains a huge capacity for change, really all throughout life. My background was in something between philosophy, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, although my early background was in fine art, in the visual arts. Really trying to understand how it is we internalize the outside world and come up with an internal model of the physical environment. And so really it's just exposure to different topics, first in art school and then as an undergrad. Eventually finding out just really what was going on in neuroscience today and being blown away by the possibilities. I worked a lot on programming computers to generate different algorithms for solving various problems. And I took a class on, basically an intro class in psychology. I heard about blind sight, that there are some people who have lesions, and so they're consciously blind, but they can still respond to visual input in an unconscious way. Sure. So I work on neural plasticity. I work on how it is that the things that we experience change our brains, how those changes in neural synapses and connections in turn feedback and change our behaviors. In this way, we can sort of grow and learn from our experiences and really be better tomorrow than we were today. So more specifically, we take a combination of approaches using electrophysiology, using imaging, using behavioral and computational methods to really understand how it is that neurons work together to generate behaviors, and how it is that different neurochemicals or different experiences, sensations that we have, really modify these synaptic connections to change the dynamics ongoing in the brain. So I think my favorite experiment these days involves the neurohormone oxytocin. So oxytocin is a small peptide, it's a small protein, And it's important for a lot of maternal behaviors and parental behaviors, parent-child bonding, different aspects of pregnancy, and it's also involved in social cognition, seemingly to maybe help you understand how important a social experience or episode might be. So we found that oxytocin infused into the brain, in particular into the left side of the auditory cortex, the temporal lobe, maybe where in the human speech and language is represented. Putting it into a mouse, a virgin female mouse, really helps her learn the significance of baby cries, of infant distress vocalizations when they're isolated from the nest, and helps them learn to take care of babies in a more powerful and profound way.